Good afternoon, students. Last class we have discussed verification and validation, and also we have seen white box testing, right? Now we are going to see the next topic, that is black box testing. Um, uh, so yeah, white box testing. So testing method that's focus on input and output of the software application. It is entirely based on the requirement and specification. This is known as a behavioral testing. Behavioral testing. Which include all the functionality of the software applications or tested without having a knowledge of internal code structure, implementation details, and the internal path. So the block mainly focuses on the input and output of the software applications, and it is entirely based on the requirements, based on requirements and specifications. Basically, important in blockchain is focus on and behavioral testing. Behavioral testing. You should keep in mind. This the name is the name is Sorry, due to the network problem, I'm not able to connect. Just a minute. I will share my PPT. In the now we are seeing the black book testing. The black box testing is can be any software system you want to test. For example, when you go for the system like a Windows or a website like a Google or a database like Oracle, even though it is maybe your own custom application, under the black box testing, we can test these application by just forcing on the input and output without knowing their internal implementation, etc. etc. So here the black box testing is one of the method. Just a minute. Am I audible? Am I audible to everyone? Yes, okay, fine. Yeah, listen. When you're using the Blockbox testing, Blockbox can test any software system you want. So, for example, when you go for the operating systems like Windows or web page like Google, it may be a database or even your application. When you go for the testing, you can test these application by just forcing on the input and output without their internal implementation. That is, we may not, for example, when you go for Google search, Google using the Google, we are not know about the internal work what they did, but we know what is the input, what is the given output. Input is correct or not, and then we know that is and the output is correct or not. Like the way we can take any application or any software or any database, we are able to check using the code block book testing. We have focused only the requirement and specification. We are not aware about the internal part. So here, how we have to do the block work testing? That is, we must follow some internal that is. Steps to follow the doing the block work testing. Mainly, it will be based on the input and output. Then we have to check whether the given input is correct or not. Like we have to check whether the given output is, I mean, received output is correct or not. So here we must follow some step. We need to some type kinds of test we have to follow. Initially, when you go for the block work testing, first step we need to we have to check what are the requirements, what are the specification of the system is examined. And one more, the next step is the tester choose the valid input. That is a tester or the user. That is, we want to check whether the given the valid input or not. So first thing, what we need the requirements and specification of the system. We need to requirement and specification of system are examined. Then second point, the tester or the user chooses the valid input to check the processes to checking the system. So, and also we have some invalid inputs. That is, we have to take a positive scenario, and we also need to take a negative scenario. We have to take a negative scenario. That is, we have to take a valid input, and we need to take a, that is, we have already discussed this in your lab class, right? When you go for the some sample programs, you have to check whether the test cases in valid input, and also we have checked using the invalid input, right? So like the way we have to take the positive test scenarios, positive test cases, and we have to check whether using the negative test cases, and we have to choose all those things to verify your um, system, and we have to able to detect whether any wrong decision or not. And also the third point, the first point, we have to require and specification of the system to be examined. And the second one, tester should chooses the valid input. It includes the positive and say, negative scenario. The third one, tester determine the expected outputs for those inputs. Third one, first one, we have to check the requirements and specifications. Second one, we have to choose the valid and valid input. It will be include of the positive and negative scenario. The third one is, we have to, as a tester, we should determine the expected outputs or for those inputs. And fourth step, the software tester or the user can construct the test cases with those selected input. Then we have to execute the test cases. The software tester compares the actual output with the expected output. And the next point, if any defects find with that, so we have to fix that defect, and we want to retest. So this thing you already known on when you go for the lab, I mean practical sections, we have checked these and all, right? So, block bug testing, first, how we have to do the block bug testing. First thing, the first step, we want to know the requirement and specification of the system which we are going to examine. Second one, we have to choose the valid input, that it will be mixed up of positive scenario and negative test scenario. Then only we are able to find the detect. So any defect. So the third point, the tester should expect the output of the. So before going to do that, we have to find for this input what is the valid output. For the valid input, then third step, valid output. So after that, the fourth step, the software tester or the tester should construct the test cases with the selected input. With the selected input. So, fourth one, we have to write the test cases, and we have to execute those test cases. Here, next point, the tester compare with your actual output and expected output. Suppose we have to find any defects, then and if there is any fixed bugs, or we have to retest those error. So this is the way we have to do the block bug testing. So the next one. Yeah, the next one, types of block bug testing. The next one, types of here, when you go for the types of testing, we are having three types of testing in block. There are many types of block bug testing available, but we have to follow some predominant topics. So here the functional testing, non-functional testing, and regression testing. So these are all the main types of the block box testing. So we are having a n number of block box testing, but we are not going for that kind of testing. Here we are only focusing on functional testing, non-functional testing, and regression testing. Here when you go for the functional testing, you know this already, what is functional and what is non-functional, right? So block work testing is related to functional requirement of the system. It is done by the software testers. And non-functional testing is also not related to testing specific functionality, but it is a requirement of performance, scalability, and usability. So third one is the regression part, regression testing. The regression testing is done after the code has been fixed, upgrades, or any other system maintenance. That is after modification, whatever the modification we will done with your application. After that, we have to do the regression testing. The regression is done after code fixing, upgrades, or any other system maintenance to check a new code that has not affect the existing code. That is, any updation we will done with your software, then we have to do the regression testing. So the block box testing is where we have to focus is only these three types of testing. That is, these three types of testing only the that is a dominant of other testings. So we have to keep on this testing only. So other than other testings or not that much requirement of testing. So mainly we have to focus these three types of testing only. So another thing we have to focus. Uh, The next one we are going. We have to use some other tools for regression. I mean, doing the block work testing. What is those? And tools used for the block work testing is it's depending on the functional or regression test or the non-functional test. It may be whatever the type of test. According to that, we have to use some tools, QTP and the Selenium for the functional or regression test, and the non-functional test you can use load runner, JMeter. So these are all the software tools we have used for black box testing. And one more thing, block box testing techniques. So these testing techniques we already know, we have seen in a practical section, and also you have studied in software engineering, right? And so here the equivalence class testing and boundary value testing and decision table testing. These are the three techniques. Listen, functional and non-functional regression testings or types of block box testing. Here, the block box testing techniques or equivalence class testing, boundary value testing or boundary value analysis, and decision table testing. These are all the block box testing technique. Testing technique. You want to differentiate the block box testing types and techniques. So according to that, you have to write the answer for the exams. You don't confuse block book testing technique and testing types. So the testing type is functional, non-functional, and regression. So when you go for the testing techniques, we have to use the mainly we have focuses on three types of techniques. One is the equivalence class testing or equivalence class partitioning, and the next one is uh, boundary value analysis testing or boundary value testing, both are same. So like the way equivalence class testing or equivalence partitioning is the same here. When you go for the equivalence class testing, it is used to minimize the number of possible test cases to an optimal level while maintaining the reasonable test coverage. Boundary value analysis, it is focus the value at boundaries. That is, we have to set some boundary values, that is a lower value and upper value, and we have to determine whether some it will be the system will be accept or not. You know that how to do the boundary value analysis. That is, we have to take some range of value, that is the lower value, and we have to set the upper value, and we have to take below value of the range and the above value of the range, and we should take the medium value. You know that how to do it. So that is the boundary value testing. Is focuses on the value at boundaries. This technique determine the certain range of value or acceptable by the system or not. It is very useful when you go for the many number of test cases. We have to take we have to limited the number of test cases, and we have to take only few cases, so which is most suitable for the system where it is input a certain ranges of value. So the third one is the decision table testing. The decision table testing causes their effect in matrix. It is a unique one. There will be according to the combination of each column. Then it will be using for the input and output values. What is the difference between the white box and the next comparison? We will see that is what is the difference between the white box and block box testing. When you go for the white box testing, the white box testing validate their internal structure and the working of the software code. You should keep in your mind that is the white box testing. That's why it is called glass box testing. You are able to, or it will be called as that is code based testing. So white box testing is another name is glass box testing, clear box testing, or code based testing. These are all the another name for the white box testing. So white box testing validate the internal structure and working of the software code, and but even in the black box testing, it name is called another name is called as behavioral testing. Behavioral testing. It will be focuses mainly the black box testing is validation of the functional requirement. Validation of the functional requirements. That is, it is specification and requirements will be taken as the testing part. So here, when you go for the box testing, to conduct the white box testing, the knowledge is very very essential. The knowledge is, that is an expert we need to while doing the test, we need a expert tester or that expert knowledge with about their project. So for conducting the white box testing, knowledge is very very essential. That is the knowledge of underlying the programming language is very very essential. Software systems of variety, because today then current nowadays we are having a variety of programming language and variety of technologies. So it is not possible to know all of them about all the languages. So each and every tester having some unique knowledge, or a programmer having some unique area specialization. So according to that, so knowledge is very very important here. So those who are going to conduct the testing in white box, they should have a knowledge of their area. So when you go for the block box testing, it gives the abstraction from the code and focuses on only the system behavior. The system behavior, that is, for example, when you take the Google, did you know that how to the working of the system? So we are not know that is how it will be working, right? So but we are able to use how it, we know that is it will be a good browser. How we have to define that is it will be a good application, it is not a good. So how we have to review those things according to the speed, or that is behavior. How according to the behavior of the software, we have to decide that this one is working properly, or this one is not working properly. So like the way we have to decide the here, how we have to compare those, that is white box and black box. If we want to we require the knowledge, that is expertise in programming or testing. It is very very necessary for white box testing. At the same time, in the block box testing, the knowledge is not that is a programming knowledge is not essential. Just focuses of behavior of the system. So the next point, when you go for the next point, white box testing does not facilitate the testing communication almost module. I mean, amongst the module. That is, white box testing does not facilitate the testing communication with the modules. But when you go for the block book testing, it will be a communication with modules. That is the major difference between the block book testing and white book testing. So when you go for the block book testing, it will be a STLC life cycle. So block book testing and life cycle is almost the same. That is, when you go for the life cycle is SDLC, that is software testing. STLC, software testing life cycle. So it was relative to every stage of software life cycle, and it will be compared. When you go for the block box testing, we have to match with the STLC and SDLC. So we have to focus also on each and every stages of SDLC, and also we have to implement those things in the STLC. This is called a block box testing process, and it is a difference between the block box and white box testing. We don't want to use the that is the white box testing that much, but we have to the block box testing has its own life cycle called, that is called STLC, that is the software development life cycle, and having software testing life cycle. Every stage is related with the block box testing. So mainly requirement, planning, design, and execution. These stages should be involved, all the major parts involved only the block box testing. So this is the difference between the white box and the block box testing. Dear students, the network is not that much proper here, so it was a connecting issue again and again. I'm not able to presenting properly. I'm not able to scrolling those things. If I scrolling these things, it will be stuck. So everyone, that's all your class today. So yeah, everyone should enter your attendance and then leave. I'm not able to proper press. I'm not able to scrolling my screen and all. I think so. My voice is clear. Okay, we will continue the next topic is gray box testing. We will it was a combine of black box and white box. We will discuss this topic in next class. Those who are entered your enrollment number, you can leave. Do it fast. Hamza, Asis, Ala, have you all entered Radhika? Have you all entered your number?